South Korea, rescuers scramble to reach people trapped in a flooded tunnel.
Authorities say dozens of bodies were pulled from the site. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Alago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. Marcos administration launches its Bagong Pilipinas campaign for a principled and dependable government. France to promote peace via maritime interactions in the Philippines. Black Sea grain deal due to expire this week without Russia's response. European Union and Tunisia ink Memorandum of Understanding on Economy and Migration. And President Joe Biden relieves eligible American students from their loans. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. launches the Bagong Pilipinas campaign as its brand of governance and leadership. The campaign aims to establish a principled, accountable, and dependable government. Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin issued Memorandum Circular Number 24 that launched the initiative on behalf of the President. President Marcos presents it as a comprehensive plan for economic and social transformation with all the administration's current agendas and programs. He directs all national government agencies and state universities to adopt the Bagong Pilipinas campaign and logo in their programs and projects.
The Department of Social and Welfare Development, or DSWD, will launch the pilot run of the food stamp program on July 18 in Tondo, Manila. Elijah Villanueva tells us more.
The food program is in compliance with the Marcos administration's Walang Gutom 2027 initiative. It initially aims to benefit 50 of the 1 million food-poor families to determine the program's effectiveness. Eligible families will receive electronic benefit cards loaded with food credits instead of cash. The cards can only be used at accredited retailers, such as Kadiwa stores. DSWD Secretary Rex Gatchalian emphasizes the goal of empowering Filipinos to choose appropriate food for their families. The participants are required to attend nutrition development classes. They are also restricted to a menu crafted by the Food and Nutrition Research Institute. The pilot program has a $3 million funding from the Asian Development Bank, or ADB, and other development partners. It will also be supervised by ADB and the World Food Program. Elijah Villanueva for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. stresses the significance of investing in the advancement and modernization of the country's agricultural sector. President Marcos, as concurrent Agriculture Secretary, expresses his commitment to this cause. He emphasizes that investing in the agricultural sector would not only provide crops for farmers, but also have far-reaching positive effects on the entire nation. The President is not able to attend the 36th Cordillera Day commemoration due to bad weather. Presidential Assistant for Northern Luzon, Assistant Secretary Ana Carmela Remillo, speaks in his stead at the event. President Marcos expresses gratitude for the Cordillerans' overwhelming support during the previous national elections. Palm prices are expected to increase by 1.80 pesos to 2.10 pesos per liter on July 18. Local oil companies say the price of gasoline will increase by 1.90 pesos per liter. Diesel prices will increase by 2.10 pesos per liter, and kerosene will go up by 1.80 pesos per liter. Diesel and kerosene increased prices by 75 centavos per liter and 50 centavos per liter for 2 straight weeks. Gasoline awaits a minimal rollback this week as it dropped by 20 centavos per liter last Tuesday.
Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas will reopen its windows for digital bank applicants sooner. Vin Pascua for the details.
Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP Governor Eli Remolana says that the central bank will soon allow more digital banks in the country. This is during a recent foreign investors briefing with the BSP chief. BSP previously closed its window for digital bank license applications for 3 years since September 2021. Before the closing, only 6 digital banks were granted with the license by BSP last August 31st, 2021. Digital bank is the central bank's 7th bank category that has minimal or zero reliant on physical touchpoints but has one office in the country for customer service. BSP's 6 digital banks are Overseas Filipino Bank Incorporated of Land Bank of the Philippines, Tonic Digital Bank of Tonic Financial Pte Limited of Singapore, Maya Bank of the PLDT Group, Uno Bank Incorporated of Singapore, Union Digital Bank of Aboitiz-led Union Bank of the Philippines, and YoTime Bank Corporation of the Gokongwei Group's Robinsons Bank. In order to establish a digital bank, an applicant requires a 1 billion peso minimum capitalization. Last December 2020, BSP issued Circular Number 1105 for the establishment of digital banks. Vin Pascua, reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Pag-asa expects a low-pressure area or LPA east of Mindanao to enter the Philippine Weather Monitoring Area. Weather specialist Obet Badrina states that the LPA may enter the Philippine Area of Responsibility or PAR without direct effect on weather conditions in the country. The State Weather Agency reports a cloud cluster to develop into an LPA after Tropical Storm Dodong exited PAR last Saturday. The LPA, located 1,070 kilometers east of Mindanao, assumed to turn into a tropical cyclone in the next 1 to 2 days. When it becomes a tropical cyclone, it will be considered the 5th storm to enter PAR this year. Pag-asa forecasts rainfall due to the southwest monsoon or habagat in the western part of the Philippines, which includes Ilocos region, Bataan, Zambales, and other parts of central Luzon, Mimaropa, Calabarzon, and Metro Manila.
Solons are in favor of the proposal for the Philippines to raise to the United Nations General Assembly China's violation of the 2016 arbitral ruling. Eden Santos reports.
Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri gives his support to raise Philippines' case against China over its repeated violation to the 2016 arbitral ruling at The Hague to the United Nations General Assembly. According to the Senate President, the majority of the senators are in favor of a resolution that urges the Department of Foreign Affairs to bring the country's grievances to the UN. He notes that the Philippines is required to also provide footage and pictures of China's invasion of the country within the 370-kilometer exclusive economic zone, or EEZ. Zubiri points out that Beijing had been executing similar activities in international waters that obstruct the freedom of navigation. Zubiri adds that the Senate will work on the said resolution on the resumption of their regular session on July 25. Eden Santos reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
France is aiming to beef up its maritime interactions in the Indo-Pacific and the Philippines through the deployment of more naval assets to promote peace. Outgoing French Ambassador Michel Bocos says that Paris is committed to promote peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region amid growing geopolitical tensions. Last month, French Navy destroyer Lorraine docked in Manila for a goodwill visit. According to Bocos, France will frequently schedule more important visits of carriers and others to the country. She notes that Paris is also interested to work closely with Manila on capacity building and technology transfers. The envoy adds that France is set to assign a full-time resident defense attaché to the Philippines this year. France participated in this year's Balikatan military exercises as an observer for the first time, then joined the multilateral Sama-Sama drills that push commitment in assuring free and open seas.
The Department of Justice, or DOJ, remarks that there are no legal barriers to the potential transfer of PhilHealth to the Office of the President, or OP. The DOJ emphasizes that it falls within the President's authority to exercise control over executive departments, bureaus, and offices. Department of Health, or DOH, Undersecretary Kenneth Ronquillo requested the legal opinion. This was after DOH Secretary Teodoro Ribosa claimed it would improve government health insurance implementation. The DOH assures that the proposed transfer of PhilHealth is in line with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s plan to streamline the national health insurance program. Coming up, various leaders attend a mid-year African Union meeting in Nairobi. Russia successfully repels a drone attack on the port of Sevastopol. And the world waits for a response from Russia on the grain deal as the last grain vessel leaves Odessa. Stay tuned, Mata ng Agila International will return for more global news.
This portion is brought to you by 318 Automart.
Sa buhay, minsan lang dumating ang taong masasabi mong tunay na kaibigan.
Yep! At kapag siya'y natagpuan na, huwag mo nang pakawalan.
Ang tunay na kaibigan, laging nandyan kahit kailan.
Handang gawin ang lahat. Maging happy ka lang.
Gagawin ang April Song! Para sa'yo, para sa pamilya, at para sa bayan.
Tulad na lang ng inyong mga bagong kaibigan.
Tuwing umaga,
Love!
Tunipet
And everything!
Lunes hanggang Biyernes,
6:30 ng umaga
sa Net 25! Let's net together! Love Tunipet and every time! Tunipet and every time! Love Tunipet! Love Tunipet and every
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. Tens of thousands of people rallied outside Taiwan's presidential office, calling for affordable housing and judicial reforms. Arlene Ocampo tells us more.
The rally comes as the country gets ready for next year's presidential election. Voters go to the polls next January, and many say the current government has not lived up to its promises to fix the housing problem. Skyrocketing real estate prices in Taiwan have put housing prices out of reach for the average worker. Wages have not kept pace with rising costs. Opposition critics also accuse the government of interfering in things like the regulation of media, something the government denies. Arlene Ocampo from Tanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Indonesian President Joko Widodo has announced a minor cabinet reshuffle of 6 positions, including a new communications minister whose predecessor stands trial for accusations of receiving illegal kickbacks. Budi Ari Setiadi, a deputy minister for villages, replaces Johnny G. Plate, who was arrested in May on suspicion of taking payments from companies linked to a program to build telecommunications towers and bring internet to thousands of villages. Johnny faces life imprisonment if found guilty of corruption in the 8 trillion rupiah project. He is the 5th minister in the president's 2 terms to be charged with corruption. Widodo told reporters after their swearing-in ceremony that Budi would be tasked with looking into artificial intelligence and data protection, adding that the resolution of the corruption case had been prioritized.
Japan, South Korea, and the United States held a joint naval missile defense exercise days after Pyongyang launched an intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM. The drill was conducted in international waters between South Korea and Japan and brought together destroyers equipped with Aegis radar systems from the three countries. A naval officer said the exercise focused on practicing procedures to detect and track a computer-simulated ballistic target and share related information. North Korea fired its latest Hwasong-18 missile, which Pyongyang describes as the core of its nuclear strike force, off its east coast, as what their state media called a strong practical warning to their adversaries. Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington denounced the ICBM launch, saying it constituted a clear violation of multiple United Nations Security Council resolutions and posed a grave threat to peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. The U.S. and its Asian allies have been working to improve their information sharing system on North Korea's missiles. South Korea and Japan are independently linked to U.S. radar systems, but not to each other.
Hundreds of people took to the streets to protest against a proposed constitutional change in the Central African Republic, or CAR.
Nous ne pouvons pas accepter que quelqu'un qui est venu par un processus démocratique et qui s'est maintenu en 2021 par une mascarade électorale puisse décider de se maintenir au pouvoir et de s'offrir un pouvoir à vie.
The amendment will allow President Faustin Archange Touadera to run for a third term. Opposition leaders led a march through the capital with heavy security provided by the CAR security forces and UN peacekeepers. The vote on the constitutional amendments is scheduled for July 30 and, if passed, would reset the two-term limits to 0. The CAR has a history of turbulence and ongoing violence, and Touadera was the first elected president after a civil war.
African leaders affirmed their dedication to advancing integration, development, and cooperation within the continent.
This 43rd Ordinary Session of the Executive Council is taking place at a time and within a special context of the international scene, marked by conflicts and various crises. Our continent has not been spared. It has suffered head-on the various upheavals and deflagrations which have worsened the already fragile situation.
AU Executive Council Chairperson Dohir Dul Kamal calls into attention the difficulties of Africa's various and constant conflicts. He states that several initiatives have already been started by the AU Council, but confesses that they still have a long way to go to attain their objectives. The leaders finalized a draft declaration during the 5th Mid-Year African Union, or AU, meeting in Nairobi. They expressed support for initiatives aimed at enhancing connectivity and tourism within Africa, such as the implementation of e-visa facilitation. Furthermore, the leaders commit to backing key initiatives, including the African Continental Free Trade Area Agenda and Guided Trade Initiative.
Despite the conflict, Iraq maintained diplomatic ties with its neighbor Syria. President Bashar al-Assad hosted Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani for talks in Damascus. They discussed reinforcing cooperation between the two countries in addition to joint efforts to fight back against terrorism. In May, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad was welcomed back to the Arab League, marking his first appearance at the Pan-Arab body since Syria was suspended in 2011 over its crackdown on pro-democracy protests, which led to a protracted war. Syria and Iraq share a 600-kilometer border flanked on either side by stretches of desert where Islamic State group fighters have hideouts from which they carry out frequent attacks. Several Arab countries are seeking increased security cooperation with Syria, which has turned into a narco state with a roaring illegal trade in the stimulant drug Captagon.
The European Union and Tunisia inked a memorandum of understanding for a strategic and comprehensive partnership on irregular migration, economic development, and renewable energy. This is after European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen commenced the pact that seeks to invest in shared prosperity. Von der Leyen was accompanied by Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Dutch Premier Mark Rutte. Under the signed partnership, EU prepared ways to help Tunisia stave off the flow of migrants attempting to sail from North African countries to reach Europe. Meanwhile, the Italian Prime Minister welcomes the strategic deal and invites Tunisian President Kais Saied to an international summit on migration on July the 23rd. Last June, von der Leyen offered Tunisia 105 million euros to support initiatives to curb irregular migration, 150 million euros in immediate support, and 900 million euros in long-term aid. Von der Leyen noted that EU remains ready to provide support to Tunisia and allocate funds as soon as the necessary conditions are met.
Earlier, we witnessed the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding on a strategic and comprehensive partnership. Our teams have worked very hard, and I want to thank them, to deliver rapidly on a strong package. This is an investment in our shared prosperity, stability, and in future generations.
In the latest developments of the Ukraine war, Russia successfully repels a drone attack on its Black Sea port of Sevastopol. The Russian Defense Ministry reports that their air defense systems had shot down 2 unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, and electronically disabled 5 others. There were no casualties or damages reported. Ukraine claims to have made substantial gains in its counteroffensive against Russian forces. They allegedly retook 18 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory within the week. The recaptured areas include the devastated city of Bakhmut, which had fallen under Russian control after intense fighting. Russian President Vladimir Putin issues a warning to Ukraine regarding the use of cluster bombs. He claims that Russia possesses an ample stockpile of these controversial munitions and reserves the right to respond in kind if Ukraine employs them in any way during the conflict. Cluster bombs, which release multiple smaller bomblets over a wide area, have been criticized for their indiscriminate nature and the risk they pose to civilian lives. The recent supply of cluster bombs by the United States to Ukraine has drawn condemnation from allies and humanitarian groups.
Private military company Wagner is training Belarusian troops with their battlefield experience in the Ukraine conflict. The Defense Ministry in Minsk announces their collaboration with Wagner's leadership to develop a roadmap for military training. Wagner troops are conducting drills with Belarusian Defense Forces, focusing on tactical movements, firearms, and first aid training. Belarusian soldiers praise Wagner's invaluable battlefield expertise, considering their own lack of combat involvement since the Afghan war. In late June, Wagner Chief Yevgeny Prigozhin accused the Russian Defense Ministry of a missile strike on a private military camp, leading to tensions. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko brokered an agreement and gave them the choice to return to civilian life, sign contracts with the Russian Defense Ministry, or relocate to Belarus. President Lukashenko expresses confidence in using PMC fighters for defense and dismisses concerns about their presence.
UN and Turkish officials in Istanbul are awaiting a response from Russia as the last cargo ship carrying Ukrainian grain leaves Odessa. A United Nations and Turkey brokered pact that allowed the export of grain via the Black Sea is set to expire this week if Russia does not agree to extend it. There was no word from talks in Istanbul, where Turkish and UN officials were trying to persuade Moscow to agree to another deal extension. Russia and Ukraine are among the world's top grain exporters, and their conflict sent food prices soaring globally. First signed in July 2022, the Black Sea Grain Initiative was negotiated to ease a global food crisis worsened by progressions in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The UN Food Program, or WFP, has procured 80% of its wheat in 2023 from the region. The WFP has shipped about 725,000 metric tons of wheat, primarily to the African region, to help fight malnutrition and assist with food security in the region. The organization said the deal has supplied grain to 45 countries in 3 continents. 46% to Asia, 40% to Western Europe, 12% to Africa, and 1% to Eastern Europe. Russia has agreed in the past year to extend the Black Sea deal, but also briefly suspended its participation in response to a Ukrainian drone attack on its fleet in Crimea. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan expressed his confidence in the renewal of the said deal.
UN-EU talks happening outside Brussels are set to discuss a crucial deal on Ukrainian grain exports that will collapse next week if Russia does not agree on its renewal. Guterres said the UN's partnership with the EU on this and other issues was essential to rebuilding trust with the developing world. The UN's Black Sea Grain Initiative, first struck in July of 2022, expires on Monday unless Putin agrees to extend it, something he has thus far held off saying he would do. The deal, which Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan helped broker, has allowed Ukraine to ship more than 32 million tons of grain past Russian warships in the Black Sea.
Now we work very closely, hand in hand, to bring grain and other foodstuff to those who need it badly. And Secretary General, I want to thank you for your tireless efforts to prolong the Black Sea Grain Initiative. The world needs it. Russia has a responsibility to prolong it. Otherwise, global food insecurity will be the consequence. So now the ball is in President Putin's court, and the world is watching.
Much of the grain has gone to feed developing countries in Africa, the Middle East, and elsewhere. Von der Leyen said the grain issue was the big topic on the table for the EU and UN teams as they held their annual high-level dialogue in the town of La Hulpe, just south of Brussels.
This is when multilateralism is more vital than ever. To bring peace, to protect the planet, to end hunger, to build guardrails for new technologies.
The United Kingdom formally signs up to the major Indo-Pacific bloc dubbed Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, or CPTPP, in New Zealand. Business and Trade Secretary Kemi Badenoch inks the session code of the partnership after 2 years of talks. The Trans-Pacific Trading Bloc composes of UK's fellow G7 members, Canada and Japan, as well as allied countries Australia and New Zealand, alongside Brunei, Chile, Malaysia, Mexico, Peru, Singapore, and Vietnam. UK notes that its government will cut tariffs for exports to CPTPP countries, a combined GDP of £12 trillion from its UK membership, and account for 15% of global GDP. Under the agreement, the Trans-Pacific Bloc will allow British business trade access to a market greater than 500 million people and access to the wider regional market. The agreement is set to apply in the second half of 2024 after thorough parliamentary scrutiny and legislation.
The latest move to block migrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border into Texas is floating buoys in the Rio Grande River, a river that runs between the two countries. And the barrier has already drawn complaints. JC Umol has the details.
The floating barrier might be termed Texas Governor Greg Abbott's answer to former President Donald Trump's wall along the border to keep the migrants out. Only about 90 kilometers of what wall have been built in Texas, and parts of it have fallen down. Abbott's plan is to have about 300 meters of orange-colored buoys anchored to the river bottom in the part of Rio Grande favored by migrants. Mexico says the buoys are a violation of water treaties between the two countries because the barrier may impede water flow. An inspection team from Mexico will take a look at it. And the Texas company that offers kayak tours has launched a lawsuit. The company says the buoys will hurt the business and damage the river ecosystem. Advocates for migrants says the barrier is dangerous and could result in death. And they say it may drive people to attempting crossing in more dangerous part of the river. JC Umul for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Staying true to his word, President Joe Biden has pursued other means to provide debt relief to millions of Americans who are trying to pay off student loans. This after the U.S. Supreme Court blocked his plan to waive student debt through the HEROES Act. Philip Toledo tells us more.
The U.S. Department of Education has announced $39 billion in debt relief for 804,000 borrowers. These loans will be automatically discharged in the coming weeks. The Education Department describes this as a result of fixes implemented by the Biden administration. It says this addresses historical failures of the federal student loan program in which qualifying payments made under income-driven repayment or RDR plans were not accounted for. Student borrowers are eligible for debt forgiveness if they have made either 20 or 25 years of monthly IDR payments. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona says the administration is ensuring everyone gets the forgiveness they deserve, such as students who were cheated by their colleges, borrowers with permanent disabilities, and veterans. The Education Department has already started informing eligible borrowers who qualify for debt forgiveness. No further action is needed on the part of the borrower. To find out if you qualify for student debt relief, reach out to ed.gov. In Atlanta, Georgia, Philip Toledo, Matinang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Next, President Yoon Suk-yeol pledges to transform the country's approach to extreme weather. Flash floods and storm warnings plague the northeastern region of the U.S. And wildfires wreak havoc in the Hatay province of Turkey. Mata ng Agila International will be back with more global news. Don't go away.
This portion is brought to you by Robic Builders.
Ako po ang katuwang ninyo para mas maunawaan ang usaping ito. Pag-usapan natin Bulaga. Dumating din si Mr. Tobiera, si Tony Tobiera. At doon, inisip niya na i-offer sa amin ang isang noontime program.
So, in short, natanggap namin si Tobiera. Nagkaroon na show. May Bulaga na.
Matagal lang sinasabi na ginagawa dapat ng DPWH yan. Nabawasan na ba ang kalidad ng mga programa at pelikulang gawa ng Pinoy? Sa tingin mo ba, mas okay bang negosyo na lang kaysa mamasukan? Check tayo dyan. Check tayo dyan. Check tayo dyan. Mag-reality check tayo.
Oy, congrats to.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bago mong show, bago mong bahay, Net 25, the best.
Aba, siyempre, hindi ako pwedeng humiwalay sa inyo.
In the U.S., for a limited time starting this fall, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will provide free COVID-19 vaccinations to adults who are uninsured or underinsured. Myla Simbulan has that story.
As COVID-19 vaccines transition to the commercial market later this fall, the 25 to 30 million adults without insurance and others more whose insurance will not provide free coverage for the vaccines did not worry. CDC is launching the Bridge Access Program for COVID-19 vaccines that will allow adults who are uninsured or underinsured to receive free COVID-19 vaccinations. CDC is partnering with state and local public health agencies, health centers, and pharmacies to ensure that all adults nationwide maintain access to life-saving COVID-19 vaccines. The vaccines will be allocated through CDC's established network of state and local immunization programs. These partners will then facilitate distribution of these vaccines to participating community-based providers. These include local health departments and Health Resources and Services Administration-supported health centers. CDC is also working closely with select national pharmacy chains, as well as vaccine manufacturers, to enable uninsured adults to receive free COVID-19 vaccines at participating retail pharmacy locations. The Bridge Access Program is temporary and will run only for a limited time. It ends in December 2024. A longer-term solution called Vaccines for Adults would cover all recommended vaccinations at no cost for uninsured adults. This proposal has not yet been enacted into law. Myla Simbulan for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Today, let's find out from some of our neighbors across the seas their opinion about how the workplace in recent years has evolved and if the hybrid trend is here to stay. John Soriano reports.
Many office spaces still sit vacant after the pandemic, with many employees now being able to work remotely. Office vacancies are at an all-time high in major U.S. cities, such as New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Chicago. Since the pandemic, some companies have allowed their employees to work remotely or as a hybrid of in-office and work from home. Some office workers are embracing this shift from a 9-to-5 Monday to Friday schedule, such as Megan in New York.
I go in the office about 2 to 3 times a week. We do a hybrid model.
Darian in New Jersey also has the option to be able to work from home.
I currently go to the office once a week, but that's supposed to be twice a week in the next couple months.
While this is a welcome change to those with flexible schedules, some companies such as Goldman Sachs have mandated their employees to return to the office full-time to increase productivity and in-person collaboration. Do people think that the hybrid or work-from-home phenomenon is a passing trend, or is it here to stay?
I think it's a long-term thing, and offices are changing everything about how they function.
I think hybrid work is here to stay. I think most places are geared toward that now, especially after the pandemic. I feel like most places have smaller offices, so it makes their employees have to come in only a couple times a week.
Not everyone is a fan of the new movement, like Logan, who is required to be in the office.
6 days. I think it's here to stay, but I don't. People get busy at home.
In New York, Joanne Soriano from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
A high-risk operation to transfer more than 1 million barrels of oil from an abandoned supertanker is expected to begin later this week. The nearly 50-year-old tanker has been anchored off the coast of war-torn Yemen since the 1980s, when it became a floating storage tank. More on that story from Thomas Eyelikeness.
Environmentalists say the tanker is a ticking environmental time bomb. No major maintenance has been done on it since 2015. They fear a major disaster could occur if the rusting ship breaks apart or explodes. The vessel remains in Yemen's western port of Hodeidah in the Red Sea, a key shipping route. In the event of a spill, the United Nations estimates cleanup costs at more than $20 billion, and it could wipe out the livelihoods for more than 200,000 people. As well, the spill could reach several other countries, including Saudi Arabia and Somalia. It could also disrupt maritime traffic through the Suez Canal. The plan now is to pump the oil into another supertanker purchased by the UN. The job is hazardous because of the risk of explosion, and the working conditions are brutal. Yemen is in the midst of the summer season, and on-deck temperatures could soar above a scorching 50 degrees Celsius. Once the oil is removed, the abandoned tanker will have to be cleaned, and it will then be scrapped. Thomas Eyelikeness from Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Iraq discovers a laboratory in a province bordering Saudi Arabia where Captagon, a notorious illicit drug, is produced. The laboratory was discovered in the southern province of Muthanna. Iraqi Interior Ministry spokesperson General Saad Maan states that it might be the first time such a laboratory has been uncovered. Iraq has long served as a transit country for Captagon in the Middle East. The country has also become a consumer market due to it. Most Captagon in the region originates from Syria and Lebanon, but this discovery suggests a shift in the drugs production to Iraq. Iraqi authorities have intensified their efforts to combat the issue. They recently dismantled an international drug trafficking ring, seizing 2 million Captagon pills.
Irish police have seized drugs with an estimated value of 2.1 million euros or $2.3 million in Kildare and Westmeath County. During an initial search, police recovered 29 kilograms of suspected cocaine with an estimated value of 2 million euros and cash amounting to 112,050 euros. Subsequent searches led to the discovery of cannabis with an estimated value of 125,000 euros, a pill manufacturing facility, and a cannabis cultivation facility. The search operation led to the arrest of 6 people. 2 men have been charged with drug-related offenses and are due to appear before Naas District Court in Kildare County, where 2 other men remain in police custody. Another man and woman have since been released without charge.
South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol pledges to transform the country's approach to extreme weather following the devastating floods and landslides that killed at least 39 people.
지금의 상황을 모두 엄중하게 인식하고 군경을 포함한 가용 자원을 총동원해야 됩니다. 특히 구조가 신속하게 이루어질 수 있도록 현장에서 각고의 노력을 기울여 주시기 바랍니다.
President Yoon emphasizes the need to acknowledge climate change and address it head-on. He states that the belief that such extreme weather is an anomaly must be discarded. President Yoon visits the severely affected village of Yechon to assess the situation and reassure the devastated residents. Investigations are underway to determine the causes of the fatal flooding of the underpass.
Rescuers in South Korea scrambled to reach people trapped in a flooded tunnel Sunday. They pulled 13 bodies from the site where about 15 vehicles were trapped in muddy water. Rani Bayuga tells us more.
Crews are pumping water from this tunnel, which flooded after a river overflowed its banks. It is located in the central Korean city of Cheongju. Hundreds of people are involved in the rescue effort, including divers. One of the vehicles swamped by the flash flood is a bus. Fire officials say the nearly 700-meter-long tunnel flooded in a matter of minutes. At least 11 people are known missing, but the number could go higher. South Korea is at the peak of its monsoon season. In the past 5 days, at least 40 people have been killed and another 9 are missing. Most of the deaths came from landslides or people falling into flooded reservoirs. Rani Bayuga for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Flash floods killed at least 5 people in Pennsylvania. Thunderstorms swept northeastern U.S., affecting residents from Maryland to Maine. Upper Makefield Township authorities report 3 dead found along the Delaware River, 13 miles north of Philadelphia, and 2 other dead bodies swept away by the floods. Meanwhile, a 2-year-old girl and her 9-month-old brother have been reported missing. The National Weather Service announced that more than 40 million people in the northeastern area are at moderate risk due to heavy rainfall. Weather forecasters informed the public to expect heavy thunderstorms to fall in Louisiana, southern regions of Mississippi, and Alabama. Flight tracking website FlightWare says that more than 1,600 flights have been canceled in the U.S. and another 8,500 flights have been delayed.
Around 55 pilot whales have died in a mass pilot whale stranded on a beach on the Isle of Lewis off the west coast of Scotland. Rescue workers tried to resuscitate the whales that were low down in the water, where 1 got away. Others were re-stranded and died later, leaving 12 still alive. Despite their best intentions, the rescue workers could not get the rest of them back into the waters, where they decided to euthanize the remaining whales on welfare grounds. Marine Charity believes one of the whales beached while giving birth, leading to a chain reaction. According to experts, pilot whales are known to have strong social bonds. When one of their pod members gets into difficult circumstances and strands themselves, the rest of them follow suit. After the incident, the Scottish Marine Animal Stranding Scheme will conduct necropsies to determine the concrete cause of the incident. In Turkey, wildfires wreak havoc in the Hatay province. Large billows of smoke can be seen shrouding the mountainous regions of Turkey. Authorities say that the fire started due to extreme heat in the region. Emergency services say they are battling the blaze. Reports say some locals are forced to evacuate from the area. Coming right up, tech CEO Elon Musk dishes out the first wave of payouts to Twitter influencers. New champions grace the All England Club podium for Wimbledon 2023. And French icon Jane Birkin dies at 76. Catch more news in business, tech, sports, and entertainment when we return.
Abangan sa Counterpoint, Philippines king of pop ballads, Nonoy Zuniga.
Tunay kaya kong ipunin lahat ng tuloy.
Pinag-uusapan natin yung lover boy. I met your wife, si Susan. Gandang babae, di ba?
Baka mali. Cut.
Ngayong Miyerkules alas 10:30 ng gabi, dito lang sa Net 25. Pinaglaban niya ang karapatan ng magsasaka na tanggalin ang pagkakaalipin sa lupa na ang naging resulta nga ng mga pag-alipin sa atin ng mga dayuhan.
Under a new ad revenue sharing program, Twitter dispenses millions to high-profile Twitter users, including controversial right-wing figure Andrew Tate and left-leaning twin brothers Ed and Brian Krasenstein. This after Elon Musk has been accused of failing to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in severance to laid-off workers. Twitter announced the ad revenue sharing program for creators, which aims to help people earn a living directly on Twitter. Among those in Twitter's payout pool was Andrew Tate, where he received $20,379 under the new program. Also getting Twitter payments to an almost $50,000 in total were Brian Krasenstein and Ed Krasenstein, entrepreneurs who originally rose to prominence on the platform with their relentless anti-Trump tweets. According to Twitter, to be considered eligible for ad revenue sharing, creators must must be Twitter Blue subscribers and have at least 5 million impressions on their posts in each of the last 3 months and pass human review for compliance with Twitter's creator monetization standards. India successfully launches its third mission with a Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft from Sriharikota Space Center. India's space mission aims to ensure a soft landing on the moon's surface. Space officials say the spacecraft is due to reach the moon on August 23 to 24. Sources say if India is successful, it will be the fourth country to achieve a soft landing on the moon. In 2008 comes India's first moon mission 13 years ago. Chandrayaan-1 carried out the first and most detailed search for water on the lunar surface. Meanwhile, in July of 2019, the second series of Chandrayaan was launched, but it was partially successful. Authorities say Chandrayaan-3 weighs 3,900 kilograms and amounts to about 6.1 billion rupees.
History is written anew as Wimbledon crowns new champions. Catherine Ortula has the score.
From unseated to unstoppable. That was the name of the game for Marketa Vondrousova as she takes home the Wimbledon championship. This after Vondrousova became the first unseeded woman to win Wimbledon for a dominant 6-4, 6-4 victory over Ons Jabeur in the final. Vondrousova arrived in Wimbledon as the 42nd seed after being ranked 99th last year, where she also suffered injuries. Now, after overcoming all odds, Vondrousova is a Grand Slam champion, where she was also rewarded with a double celebration with her husband for their first wedding anniversary. Over to men's singles. Carlos Alcaraz dethroned Novak Djokovic to claim historic victory. Alcaraz took down history's greatest Grand Slam player, Novak Djokovic, in a thrilling 5 sets, 1-6, 7-6, 6-1, 3-6, and 6-4. It was a definitive statement tennis has seen, as the 20-year-old took the game's finest player to the absolute limit. Djokovic, meanwhile, hailed Alcaraz, believing he has the best of all 3 worlds and was inspired by every member of the so-called Big Three, namely himself, Roger Federer, and Rafael Nadal. Since Wimbledon 2003, they have dominated the world stage for 2 decades, winning 65 major titles between them. Catherine Ortula for Sports, Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Jane Birkin, singer, actress, fashion icon, and namesake of the Hermes Birkin designer handbag, has died at the age of 76. Stephanie Mayo has the scoop.
British-born actress and pop singer Jane Birkin has died at the age of 76. Birkin, who found fame in France, spent nearly 60 years in the limelight. She rose to international fame when she fell in love with French actor and singer Serge Gainsbourg. The duo collaborated professionally while in a romantic relationship, including making the hit song Je t'aime mon emploi together, making Birkin a household name. She was even the inspiration for the famous Birkin bag by French luxury house Hermes. Birkin appeared in over 70 films and worked with some of France's most esteemed directors, including Jean-Luc Godard and Agnès Varda. Shortly after news of her death broke, President Emmanuel Macron tweeted, "Because she embodied freedom, because she sang the most beautiful words in her language, Jane Birkin was a French icon." Stephanie Mayo for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Meanwhile, Hollywood stars joined the writers' strike. Julian Bunag has the story.
In the U.S., Hollywood celebrities joined the writer's strike as SAG-AFTRA, or the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, announced a strike after talks broke down with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, or AMPTP. The news comes 2 months after the Writers Guild of America went on strike on May 2, where protesters demand for higher pay and a stable pay structure. Leonardo DiCaprio joins fellow stars who have shown support with the strike, affecting red carpet premieres of Oppenheimer and Barbie. Oppenheimer's Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Florence Pugh, and Robert Downey Jr. left the film's UK premiere, while promotions for Barbie have been halted. The strike follows unsuccessful negotiations with the AMPTP over a new contract where it represents producers such as Walt Disney, NBC Universal, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Netflix. Julian Bunag for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Philippines Miss Saigon became viral in a recent video posted by one of her fans. In the video, Lea Salonga was visibly surprised to see 2 fans trying to enter her dressing room unannounced. The Broadway star then explained that she would not be entertaining people backstage. She explained that there were protocols in place for the talent's safety. Salonga added that if they are not on a guest list, they are not allowed in the area. The poster of the video said they felt like trash being thrown out in front of all the people there. He added that it was not the first time they encountered this kind of treatment, but said this one was worse. Netizens quickly came to the singer-actress's defense, stating that she deserves her privacy. One such comment states that dressing rooms are private spaces for the artists. The singer-actress later addressed the incident to the media.
My husband constantly reminds me, you have fans and you should be grateful and feel blessed that you have them. And I do. And I truly do. But when personal boundaries in space are violated, then how am I supposed to react? But we have the responsibility also to keep ourselves safe. And if our assistants, managers, bodyguards act in the way that they do, it's so that you will still have an idol to idolize tomorrow. It sounds really heavy and grave, but just think of people like John Lennon. And we've lost him prematurely because there was some fan who took it upon himself to take him away from the world.
Hundreds of golden retrievers and their owners gather in the Highland ancestral home of the famous dog breed. The first golden retriever puppies were born 1,500 years ago at Gustachan House in Glen Affric, Scotland. These Tweed Water Spaniels with wavy yellow coats became the first litter of golden retrievers in the year 1868. The puppies were named Primrose, Cowslip, and Crocus. Secretary of the Golden Retriever Club of Scotland, Carol Henry, says that the gathering keeps the history and breed of golden retrievers alive. This event takes place every 5 years with a mile-long walk over the Gustachan House. Golden Retriever owners travel from all around the world, like the United Kingdom, continental Europe, North America, Australia, and Japan, to celebrate the event.
It's Monday again.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. To start the week, here's a quote from one of America's founding fathers and the 3rd President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson. Do you want to know who you are? Don't ask. Act. Action will delineate and define you.
I actually saw another quote today, or another post on social media, where someone said, you know, we always manifest, but we have to put action into those manifestations as well.
And also you have to know that you're not the same person you were 5 years ago.
Of course.
And you have to keep acting so you keep growing.
Yes, and don't be afraid to, step out of your comfort zone. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Gianna Llanes.
I am Nina Richie Elago Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.